The anime begins by telling stories that in ancient times, gods made humans and witches. The gods gave magic powers to the witches to guide and protect weak humans. Witches promised to protect people too, but now humans don't need witches anymore. Sadly, witches are being hunted and killed. The scene shifts to a boy named Adonis and a witch named Chloe Morgan. So at that time, Adonis is taken care of and trained by Chloe, who is the most powerful ice witch. They're currently on a journey to the border, but when Adonis uses his cell phone's maps, Chloe gets upset. It's because the Redia Empire, which hunts witches, can track their location. Adonis explains that his cell phone was made with summoning magic, so its location can't be traced. There he teases Chloe for being old-fashioned and playfully hits her. Adonis asks why they have to run, and Chloe explains that she's a witch. So for now, Chloe wants to stay away from humans and hopes to live peacefully at the border with Adonis among humans who accept witches. Here, Adonis was surprised by Chloe's calm attitude, even though he was very frustrated. Adonis really despised the Redia Empire and wanted to use magic to defeat them instead of running away. Soon after, Redia Empire soldiers arrived, making Adonis furious and wanting to eliminate them all. But Chloe stopped him and handled them herself, instantly defeating them. Meanwhile, in the Redia Empire's palace, we see the 23rd emperor named Goth. He was annoyed that his men couldn't catch the Ice Witch. However, Goth remained calm because he believed that the Ice Witch couldn't escape from him. Back to Adonis, he was irritated by Chloe's refusal to let him harm humans. He questioned why he was learning magic if he couldn't use it for protection. Chloe explained that Adonis needed more experience in magic. To prove himself, Adonis created a huge sword. But he realized that Chloe didn't want him, as a human, to harm other humans. Adonis thought Chloe was too kind. He couldn't bear to see her mistreated, and if it continued, he couldn't protect her. Chloe understood his feelings and hugged him. Suddenly, an energy source appeared, not magic, but human technology through a satellite that could teleport objects. In other words, humans had invented a device that could teleport people. Meanwhile, Goth was busy talking to his people. He'd explained how witches had been using magic to protect humanity from disasters, making humans rely on, respect, and even fear them. Goth said that the world was unfair because only witches had special powers beyond regular humans, making humans seem weak. To boost their self-respect, humans had developed their own power through advanced technology like airplanes, trains, and telephones, which improved transportation and communication between cities. At that moment, Goth wanted to emphasize that humans were not weak anymore. With technology, they could shape and control the world, and there might no longer be a need for witches. So it was time for humans to show that they were the strongest rulers in the world. Suddenly, Chloe and Adonis appeared, having been teleported. They were both shocked by this unexpected event, witnessed by thousands of people. When Adonis saw Goth, he wanted to attack, but the guards quickly apprehended him. Chloe was angry and demanded that Goth release Adonis if he cared about the lives of the humans present. Chloe was patient because if she harmed humanity, Adonis, who was human, would have nowhere to go. Surprisingly, humans had invented a magical device that could erase magic. Adonis tried to use magic to help Chloe, but he couldn't. Then, Goth slowly approached Chloe and publicly humiliated her in front of the large crowd. Soon after, Goth ordered his men to harm Adonis, but Chloe immediately fell to her knees, pleading for Adonis' release. She explained that Adonis was just a poor child she had found on the streets, and she begged for forgiveness. Adonis became furious and, while crying, tried to cast magic spells, but they remained inactive. Chloe thanked Adonis one last time and expressed her deep love for him. In front of a large crowd, Chloe was cruelly murdered, which made Adonis very angry. But the horror didn't stop there. Chloe was killed right in front of Adonis. This tragic event left a permanent scar. The gods had once said that humans were timid beings, and witches were supposed to protect them, befriend them, and live peacefully together. Hatred between them would only bring darkness and chaos to the world. In short, 10 years passed in the capital of the Redia Empire, specifically in New Nightmare City. The scene showed internment camps and chaos, including a prison for female prisoners. Two women were seen fighting over a piece of bread. Doroka, a kind and beautiful woman, gave her bread to stop the fight. Her friend, Anna, complained that Doroka was too kind. Suddenly, Anna felt worried about the progress of human technology, which seemed to be causing suffering among humans. People were even fighting each other now. Anna wondered where the promised happiness was supposed to come from after the witches were eliminated. To cheer Anna up, Doroka used a hand puppet to act as a hero who would come to the rescue. Shortly after, a prison guard came to call out the number 218, which turned out to be Anna. Once again, Doroka showed her kindness by stepping forward and switching her number with Anna's. Doroka was then confronted by the head warden named Kuchiki. At that time, Kuchiki seemed pleased to see the beautiful Doroka. Suddenly, he demanded that Doroka undress, promising to promote her at a high price. Kuchiki emphasized that all of this was possible thanks to the progress brought about by the Rhea Empire. He even wanted a photo of the two of them. Unexpectedly, Doroka managed to escape while carrying Kuchiki's cell phone. While being chased, she attempted to unlock the phone's password. After several tries, she successfully imitated Kuchiki's speech style, finally unlocking it. As a result, Doroka opened all the cell doors, causing chaos. Doroka reached a particular door with Kuchiki's cell phone, and not long after, the officers arrived. Luckily, by this time, all the cell doors had been opened by Doroka. She even managed to open a tube in front of her, revealing Adonis inside. There, Doroka easily defeated the guards one by one. However, she became scared when Adonis approached her. Thankfully, she wasn't harmed, but was rather released from the handcuffs that bound her. Right now, things in the internment camp were in total chaos. The doors to blocks 1 to 6 had been opened, making it hard for the guards to catch the escaped prisoners. Over at the National Security Bureau office building, the executive director named Yamato assigned Ikao to deal with this problem, and also to capture a dangerous prisoner, Adonis. Yuki, who worked with Yamato and was his younger sister, didn't like how Ikao was being careless in his dealings with her brother. But according to Yamato, it was acceptable because Ikao was a valuable asset. Meanwhile, Kuchiki was panicking, realizing that this situation could get him in trouble with his superiors. He might even face execution for his negligence, which had allowed Adonis, the witch's apprentice, to escape along with the magic pen. Along the building, Adonis started to write magic spells, not for jumping or hanging, but to create summoning magic in the form of enlarging bullets. He was determined to bring destruction to humanity. On the other hand, Ikao had arrived at the internment camp. In a cruel turn of events, he ended up killing all the remaining prisoners there but couldn't find the male prisoner he was searching for, Adonis. To make matters worse, Ikao also killed the guards, including Kuchiki. On the flip side, Doroka was feeling remorseful for freeing Adonis, who was consumed by revenge. Adonis, on the other hand, was amazed by the advancements and progress in the city today. He couldn't help but think that his current actions would surely be met with disapproval from Chloe. Chloe had always stressed that seeking revenge was not a good path to follow. Even though a decade had passed, Adonis could never forget Chloe's eyes, her voice, and the words she had shared. He especially couldn't forget her last words, which remained unspoken. Motivated by his feelings, Adonis created a giant with the intention of destroying the capital. Meanwhile, the police were shocked to find the driver who had crashed into their office appeared to be drunk. They claimed to have seen a giant outside, and to their astonishment, it turned out to be true. At the same time, the National Security Bureau was reporting the current situation regarding the approaching giant. Yamato ordered his team to prepare for both aerial and ground attacks. According to the latest information, Adonis had taken the magic pen, indicating that the giant was created using magic and not a war machine from a neighboring country. As a result, Yamato instructed his team to prepare a magic photon suppression device, specifically a magic erasing machine called DAM. However, DAM had not been used for a decade, so Yamato asked Yuki to check its functionality. In the meantime, the steel tanks were all set to attack, but no one got hit. It turns out that Adonis had a special magic trick up his sleeve that made the steel tanks miss their targets automatically. Suddenly, the building was under attack, and the steel tanks were swept away without any effort. So, Adonis spent 10 years in isolation, where he was given a unique simulation using brain tissue to understand how humans could use magic. It turned out that Adonis was a talented student who could master a magical pen that could transform into mathematical expressions. He owes his skills to a great teacher named Chloe. Now, Adonis plans to take revenge on those who have benefited from hunting witches. Meanwhile, Ikao, who was hiding nearby, started to inform Yamato about Adonis's location in the giant's hand. Yamato immediately ordered the Air Force to launch missiles at the giant's arm. As the chaos grew, a child cried out for their mother. Just as rubble was about to hit the child, Doroka quickly stepped in and rescued the child, guiding them to safety. Doroka then rushed to confront Adonis and put a stop to his actions. On the other hand, In the imperial palace of Rhedia, Goethe reappeared. It turns out that Goethe was dying from a deadly disease. Goethe believed that this was a consequence of his actions in hunting witches, but he had no regrets. He remained convinced that his actions were necessary for the progress of humanity. Meanwhile, after being hit by a lot of missiles, Adonis fell, but he didn't stop there. He continued to harm the soldiers who were trying to capture him. Just when he was about to harm someone else, Doroka stepped in to stop him. She told Adonis that he had already taken the lives of many innocent people, but didn't seem to care. Adonis, on the other hand, found it amusing that he had harmed innocent people, and he declared that his goal was to eliminate all of humanity, not just within the Rhedia Empire. When Doroka mentioned Chloe's name, it made Adonis furious. Adonis thought that Doroka was part of a group of sneaky humans trying to manipulate his thoughts and waiting for reinforcements. But then, Doroka revealed her own magic, showing that she was a witch. This revelation made Adonis even angrier, as he wondered why Doroka, as a witch, hadn't helped save Chloe earlier. Doroka explained that she had been very frustrated at that time. Adonis was really upset when Doroka mentioned that Chloe could come back to life, but it turned out to be a lie. Adonis was getting more and more frustrated with Doroka's teasing behavior about Chloe. Then Doroka revealed that she had come to this country secretly to save Adonis, just so she could bring back Chloe, who was the greatest witch. To make it happen, Doroka needed Adonis's memories of Chloe. However, Adonis was still doubtful, but when he saw Doroka's resigned smile, which looked a lot like Chloe's, he couldn't help but feel sad. Tears welled up in his eyes as he asked if it was true that Chloe could be brought back to life. Doroka immediately offered her hand and said yes. Now, let's take a look back at Doroka's past. 10 years ago, there was a village where witches lived, and it was burned down. The witches were killed one by one, right in front of Doroka. Luckily, the Rhedia troops didn't notice her. Doroka was surprised by why humans were attacking the witches. She and her friends had come from far away to help the people in that village, and the witches couldn't defend themselves because humans used a tool called DM, which removed their magic. Then, Mia told Doroka to run away and report this to Ophelia, but Doroka didn't want to leave Mia alone. To comfort and encourage her, Mia used a hand puppet to communicate. Eventually, Doroka decided to run, even though she couldn't stop her tears from flowing. Now, let's break down what happened next. Doroka had to face her death in front of Adonis. When she whispered something to him, she was suddenly shot by a sniper named Ekout. Adonis was really upset because all Doroka had said was about bringing Chloe back to life. When the Rhedia troops started attacking, Adonis created a protective spell that could stop bullets from getting through. Any bullets that hit the spell turned into money. Meanwhile, Ekout was ready to target Adonis with his sniper rifle. Adonis easily deflected Ekout's attacks, and once again, the bullets turned into money. This time, though, Adonis added a bonus by making the bullets bigger. Soon after, Adonis continued to express his frustration about not letting humans have fun after Chloe's death. He promised to harm humans and slowly approached the remaining soldiers with bald heads. On another note, Yuki had made it to the basement where the magic photon suppression device, also known as DM, was located. She was happy to finally be able to help her country as Yamato's younger sister. However, the researchers there refused to activate the magic photons, especially a person named Theta Samansta. There, Theta explained the situation to Yamato through Yuki's cell phone. She mentioned that the scientists from Rhedia still didn't understand the particles produced by magic photons. To clarify, these particles caused a disease in humans about 10 years ago, affecting many troops. In essence, this machine could harm human cells. All of this had been kept a secret for the sake of human progress. Furthermore, the Rhedia Empire had also concealed the fact that the Earth was contaminated by this disease. To make matters worse, the witches who could restore the environment were now gone. In a way, the world was approaching its end. Theta explained that Goethe was currently sick due to his constant proximity to this magic photon machine. Next, in the classroom, a student asked why there was a human, Adonis, defending the witches. The teacher suggested that maybe Adonis had been influenced or manipulated in some way. When the class ended, Rhea was approached by another student, who kept pressuring her about something she had noticed. Rhea was clearly annoyed and didn't want to be bothered. Later, Rhea went to the place where they were paying respects to the people who had died, especially her boyfriend, Takuma. It turned out that the girl who had approached her earlier was talking about Rhea's actions when Takuma was trapped under rubble. Rhea had left him there, and she felt guilty for her behavior. However, she had managed to take a photo of Adonis, whom she admired for being cool, handsome, and having magic. Suddenly, Rhea was surprised to see a man looking at the photo of Adonis. The concerning part was that this man was a member of the Rhea Empire's government. He said it was okay to keep the photo, but warned Rhea not to tell anyone. Rhea agreed and said goodbye. However, this man then called his associates to label Rhea as a traitor to Rhea and execute her. As it turns out, the person he called was an important figure in Rhea, an investigator named Charmy. Charmy is currently examining Adonis' body, which was claimed to be fake. In that moment, Adonis, struggling in pain, being looked after by several women. The most surprising part is when the long-awaited witch, Ophelia, shows up. To comfort Adonis, Ophelia uses her magic to bring up memories of Chloe. It turns out that everyone here is a witch. The actual incident involving Adonis is then revealed. It turns out that the soldier who seemed to have killed Adonis was a witch named Anna, who was a friend of Daroka. Anna used her duplication magic to make it look like she killed Adonis, but she actually killed someone else's body, making it seem like Adonis was dead to the Rhea Empire. There, Adonis was wrapped in bandages and sent into the sky, and the process caused him a lot of pain. Ophelia immediately hugged him and thanked him for fighting for the witching nation. However, Adonis gave a sharp look to the witches around him instead. After that, Adonis was taken around in a wheelchair. At that time, the witches were very happy and enjoying their lives here. Soon, two female witches approached Adonis and talked about Chloe, who was kind and beloved by the witches. Adonis was clearly thrilled to hear this. Next, Adonis is brought in front of Ophelia. Although Adonis wants to stand up from his wheelchair, Ophelia insists he stays seated because he's still unwell and weak from the process of coming from Earth to this land of witches. Ophelia then talks about Chloe. She describes Chloe as a witch who was stronger, smarter, happier, and kinder than the other witches. Unfortunately, Chloe was expelled from the land of witches. Adonis immediately responds, saying that Chloe was expelled because she taught magic to humans, specifically him. Ophelia explains that magic is like a soul for witches. It represents a bond and devotion given by the gods to guide humans. Therefore, teaching magic to humans was not something that should have been done. At that time, the other witches pleaded with Chloe to return and ignore Adonis. However, Chloe simply said sorry. Then Adonis gave her a sharp look once more. Soon after, when Ophelia showed Adonis the magic pen, he stood up from his wheelchair and asked her to return it. Ophelia handed over the magic pen, and Adonis was overjoyed. This object was the only memento Chloe had made specifically for him. Adonis then asked if Ophelia could truly bring Chloe back to life. Ophelia replied simply, saying that witches do not lie. This brought happiness to Adonis. As he looked up, he was surprised to see planet Earth in the distance. It turns out that this land of witches was not on Earth, but beyond human reach, specifically on the moon, in outer space. 10 years ago, the witches escaped to a new land called Lunamilia, which became their new home. Adonis is then shown a tomb where fallen witches are remembered. Ophelia explains that humans have shown their true nature since they discovered the science they created. Humans are often fearful of the future because they are naturally cautious creatures. They can also be driven by strong emotions, where the darkest times come before dawn, and things get better when morning arrives. It's similar to love having its opposite, which is hate. Because of this, human rulers believed that these emotions could be destructive and associated them with witches who could harm humans. Adonis is then shown the Meadow tree, which is unique to witches. It's the tree from which witches are born because there are no male witches. This tree is how witches come into existence and can be reborn. The Meadow tree is the only one that survived and was successfully transferred to Lunamilia, while the rest were destroyed by humans. Adonis starts to believe that Chloe's essence is inside the fruit at birth, but Ophelia explains that the fruit gives birth to a new generation, not a reincarnation. However, with Adonis's unique powers, the fruit will give birth to a figure similar to Chloe. Here it explains that magic is the power to turn thoughts into physical reality, just like Adonis' magic, which is called creation magic. With mastery of magic, one can shape their thoughts into reality. In simpler terms, Adonis' magic is very versatile. For example, he can create a memory, and that memory is linked to the myth fruit's existence. This means that if Adonis attaches Chloe's memory to the Meadow fruit, Chloe will be reborn. After Ophelia left, Adonis lay down, imagining Chloe coming back to life. Soon, Anna approached him, expecting gratitude. She was quite angry when she saw Adonis so relaxed, remembering how Doroka was willing to sacrifice herself for him. Then, Adonis casually mentioned that he was innocent, because it was all part of the witch's plan. As he was about to leave, Anna commented on how humans can be selfish, thinking only about their desire to bring Chloe back to life, without considering the sacrifices that were made. Anna deeply regretted risking her life for someone like Adonis. Suddenly, Adonis glared at Anna and accused her of having the same goal to bring Chloe back to life and to use her. He emphasized that she shouldn't pretend not to know. Anna was taken aback by this revelation. Before Doroka died, she had whispered that the witches intended to use Chloe, and Adonis needed to escape with Chloe from the land of witches. Adonis believes that this place was built as a prison for humans. The witches, using a method called heterophase transfer, would later capture human slaves and teach them magic, just like Adonis learned from Chloe. These slaves would be forced to fight against other humans because the witches are close to extinction. That's why they plan to get back Chloe, as she is the only witch capable of creating a magic pen like Adonis's. Suddenly, Anna began to worry and asked Adonis what he would do after learning about this plan. She begged him not to let Doroka's sacrifice go to waste and to continue helping the witches. Adonis responded that he would keep Chloe alive and follow her wishes. If Chloe refused to help the witches, then they would become her enemies. The next day, the ceremony to revive Chloe was about to begin. The witches formed a circle, and Adonis started using memory magic to recall moments with Chloe for the myth that was about to be reborn. During this process, Adonis remembered the happy times he had shared with Chloe, like when they saw the stars on the roof tiles or when he accidentally caught a glimpse of her while she was showering. However, this was not a joyful moment, but a sad one. Adonis saw wounds all over Chloe's body, and she tearfully thanked him for being with her all this time. She couldn't bear to live without him, and it seemed that only when she was with Adonis, she could find happiness. So for now, Adonis has decided not to bring Chloe back to life. He doesn't want Chloe to experience the hardships of this world again. This surprised all the witches, especially Ophelia, because Adonis actually revived Doroka instead. When Doroka realized she wasn't wearing clothes, she blushed and asked to erase that memory. Adonis gave her a shirt and said they were even. Ophelia was very angry about this and called Adonis heartless for wasting all the sacrifices made to bring Chloe back. Adonis even turned on Doroka, who wasn't important to Ophelia, and asked if Doroka had told him anything. Suddenly, Adonis interrupted their conversation and explained that it was his decision not to bring Chloe back to life. This made Ophelia angry, and she threatened to punish Adonis. However, a human teleportation wave appeared. Adonis then revealed that he had been a long-term prisoner, and the human army would soon arrive. Knowing that the listening chip would explode, he threw it, destroying the Mito tree. Soon after, Yamato and his troops arrived. The panicked witches used magic to extinguish the fire on the Mito tree.
Let me handle this!
Ophelia became increasingly angry with the humans who had no magic, and she ordered Santa Maria's troops to prepare for battle. Meanwhile, Adonis is in a battle against Yamato. When Yamato finds himself in a tight spot, Doroka steps in and asks Adonis to stop. At the same time, the Santa Maria witches start attacking with various kinds of magic. They use crystal magic, summon centipedes, snakes, and plants, and shoot thousands of arrows. Ophelia shows her immense power by effortlessly defeating the entire human army with a single gesture. However, a second army arrives unexpectedly. Meanwhile, at Rhedia headquarters, Theta and other high-ranking officials are watching the battle on the moon. They scold Theta for revealing the existence of the land of witches, which had been hidden until now. Theta explains that the witches used a prototype to escape to the moon during the witch hunt 10 years ago. Their buildings went unnoticed thanks to camouflage magic. However, Denazma, a high-ranking figure, is furious because he feels the money spent on the National Science Agency has gone to waste. Another official named Shirusagi suggests that the only solution now is to let the witches be annihilated. Back to the battle between Yamato and Adonis. Yamato gets up and boosts his weapons by 500%. He charges at Adonis with incredible speed and strikes him down. Meanwhile, Doroka, who was getting closer, was told to step back while Yamato prepared for an attack. Yamato, who was thinking about his little sister receiving treatment, blamed Adonis for all of this. He imagined his sister's happy smile when this fight was over. So for now, Yamato decided to use all his abilities, a skill created through science, which was an anti-magician attack. In an instant, all the inhabitants of the land of witches were affected by the attack. Fortunately, Adonis managed to escape, and Daroka was saved thanks to Anna's duplication magic. Sadly, Anna herself couldn't be saved.
Anna! This can't be! Please just make it stop!
Then, Yamato's troops mercilessly attacked the remaining witches. Due to Yamato's attack, Ridia's headquarters lost video connection and couldn't see what was happening in the land of witches. However, they could still communicate through voice. Yamato reported that the witches were dead, leaving only Adonis. Suddenly, Adonis started using magic to attack. Even though Yamato had inflicted severe damage, thanks to science, he was able to automatically repair all the damage and strike Adonis directly. When Adonis was about to attack again, Yamato strengthened his equipment, creating a powerful gust of wind. In the end, Adonis got seriously hurt by Yamato's attack. Despite that, Adonis managed to wield a huge sword and cut off Yamato's arm. Even with all the advanced science we have today, it can't bring back a human body. So, Yamato could only try to stop the bleeding. Later, when Adonis was lying there weak and vulnerable, Yamato slowly approached to finish the fight. Then, Daroka used her magical love powers. Suddenly, Yamato and everyone else, except Adonis, couldn't move at all. There, Daroka asked Yamato his name, and he answered right away. When Yamato tried to resist, Daroka's magic got even stronger. Adonis was actually quite impressed by Daroka's powerful magic, and with a laugh, told her to kill Yamato. Instead, Daroka reached out and convinced Yamato to stop fighting. She promised not to harm Adonis and the other witches. Adonis was really mad at Daroka for wanting to spare the humans who had killed witches, including her friend Anna. Adonis explained, if you spare someone, you'll be the one in danger. And as soon as the love magic wore off, Yamato attacked Daroka. Now, Yamato is really angry because the witches killed innocent humans, even causing his younger sister's death. Then, Daroka asks him why humans have been killing innocent witches for the past 10 years. She believes that just because witches are no longer needed, it doesn't mean they should be killed. At that time, Daroka reminds him that humans and witches used to be friends and suggests they should stop the current conflict. While holding Yamato's hand, Daroka brings up happy memories from their past, and it starts to soften Yamato's anger. Right in front of Daroka, Yamato meets his end. Adonis says he only held a grudge, admitting that Daroka's magic is very strong. Soon after, Adonis invites Daroka to stop pretending in this harsh world and destroy humanity together, but she refuses. Adonis, however, remains determined and immediately attacks the remaining troops. To stop him, Daroka tries to use love magic on Adonis, but suddenly he's right in front of her and challenges her to go ahead and kill him if she wants to die. Daroka can't do anything and only says that killing will lead to more hatred, and the conflict will never end. But Adonis doesn't listen to Daroka. After that, Adonis did something strange. He took Yamato's facial skin and put it on his own face. He even changed his voice to sound like Yamato. Then he made a video call to Ridia headquarters. Adonis told them that the witches had all been killed, not even the troops survived. He asked to be sent back to Earth. After hanging up the phone, the dying Ophelia was upset, saying that Adonis was willing to sacrifice all the witches just for his own purposes. She prayed for the gods to judge Adonis, calling him a vile human child. However, Adonis didn't pay attention to her words and dragged Daroka with him. Suddenly, Daroka slapped him because she was really annoyed with his behavior. At that time, Chloe didn't like how Adonis was acting either. Adonis didn't say anything and stayed silent. As the transportation route started to become active, Adonis mumbled a quick apology. Meanwhile, at Ridia headquarters, all the troops were on alert, because they knew that the person who had called earlier was not Yamato, but Adonis. On the other hand, up on the roof of the Ridia Imperial Palace, one of Guth's subordinates reported the situation of the witches on the moon. Suddenly, Guth went crazy when he heard that his troops were going to completely massacre the remaining witches, including Adonis. At this moment, Guth's subordinates were surprised by Guth's really unusual behavior. Guth's wife explained that he could be a bit crazy sometimes, asking for praise like a child. It was at this moment that the truth about everything that had happened was revealed. Guth's wife, whose name was Dorothea, turned out to be a witch with the same love magic as Daroka. Since the witches on the moon had been wiped out, Dorothea didn't need Guth anymore. so she told him to end his own life.
Off to kill the king, off to kill the king. Today is truly
There's a good boy. Keep it up, dear.
Your Majesty!
Hearing that, God's men were shocked by this revelation. When one of them was about to report it, Dorothea used her love magic to make them obey her orders. She then reported to the army leaders that Goth had passed away. Afterward, Dorothea's secret weapon, Shirasadi, came into play. There, Dorothea explained that her magic only worked on men. To carry out her plan, she had to get rid of her own people. Her ultimate desire wasn't to rule this world, but to bring back a certain man. When the teleportation happened, the troops immediately opened fire, but Adonis wasn't there. They reported that the coordinates had been changed, and they couldn't track Adonis anymore. They'd have felt frustrated and admitted that victory now belonged to Adonis. It turned out that Adonis had altered the coordinates using Yamato's cell phone and had even changed his voice to sound like Yamato. Currently, Adonis was in the middle of the desert, far from the Rhedia Empire. At this point, Adonis announced his plan to slowly bring down Rhedia with whatever means he could find. For now, he would gather information and look for medicine to heal his wounds. Suddenly, Daroka sat down and expressed her desire to return to the moon, not wanting to follow his revenge-driven wishes. Out of nowhere, Adonis played a recording of Daroka asking Yamato not to attack again. Adonis thought Daroka was acting irrational, trying to make things right with humans when it seemed impossible. Daroka then explained that she had always wanted to meet Adonis, the student of the strongest ice witch. Adonis, who lived between two worlds, represented hope for Daroka as a bridge to unite humans and witches. She was determined to stop the conflict between the two. Adonis, however, made it clear that he didn't care about the two nations, cause his sole concern was Chloe's life and seeking vengeance against her killer. When questioned about his actions causing the deaths of many witches on the moon, Adonis blamed Anna for inviting him there. Daroka was both saddened and angered by Adonis's words, accusing him of taking lives too lightly. Adonis then asked why Daroka forgave humans despite witnessing the massacre of witches by humans in front of her chief's eyes. Daroka responded by saying that revenge could never heal Adonis's wounded heart. When Adonis said he felt like he had nothing, Daroka had an emotional moment and reminded him that he still had a life that Chloe always protected. She didn't want Adonis to become a cruel person and believed that seeking revenge would only make his pain worse. Adonis, however, believed that revenge was a way to prove his existence, and he was afraid that if he stopped seeking revenge, the memories of Chloe would fade from his heart, which he feared. Suddenly, Daroka panicked as she saw Adonis's worsening bleeding. Meanwhile, from a distance, a group of bikers noticed Daroka and Adonis. They mistakenly thought that Daroka and Adonis were in a romantic relationship or trying to run away together. Out of curiosity, they approached Daroka and Adonis. When they arrived, Daroka asked for their help to save Adonis, who was almost bleeding to death. Fortunately, these bikers were very kind and immediately took Adonis to their headquarters for help. Long story short, the next morning arrived, and Adonis woke up in a room. Soon, a guy named Punch, who was the leader of these folks, came in with some lizards and a bottle of alcohol. When they offered Adonis a drink, he refused, thinking it looked like dirty water from the sewers. However, the lizards seemed to enjoy it. Adonis thought this place seemed like a hidden settlement that the Rhedians couldn't reach, making it very safe. Soon after, Adonis asked about Daroka, and Punch mentioned that the young people in the group had taken her. This made Adonis angry, and he demanded to know what they had done to Daroka. Hearing that, Punch smiled and took Adonis to see Daroka's condition. He explained that this place was a refuge for Rhedians who had been abandoned by science and had become wanderers here. There, Adonis noticed that the drink he was offered still had ties to the Rhedia country, which made him sad. Suddenly, he heard Daroka's screams, but was surprised to find out she was just practicing riding a motorbike, not in trouble. To help Adonis relax, Daroka gave him a doll, but he ended up tossing it aside. Then Punch announced that there would be a party that night, and everyone got really excited. In the evening, everyone was enjoying some drinks together, and Daroka was working as a bartender. Then an elderly man wanted to chat with Daroka because he hadn't seen a woman in a while and thought she was beautiful. He got a bit shaky, and being drunk, he touched her inappropriately. In response, Daroka quickly gave him a bun to divert his attention. Meanwhile, Adonis watched from a distance without saying much as Daroka enjoyed herself. When Doroka seemed sad, some guys asked if Adonis was her boyfriend and why he was there in the middle of nowhere. Doroka explained that they were friends traveling the world, and the guys laughed at this. Soon after, everyone passed out suddenly. Doroka panicked, not knowing what happened. Adonis approached and revealed that he had changed the alcohol into something that made them fall asleep. Doroka was confused but relieved that no one was harmed. When Adonis took a gun from one of the unconscious young people, Doroka got scared and tried to explain that these guys had actually helped them, especially by saving Adonis's life. Adonis decided not to harm them because it wouldn't serve any purpose, and he no longer needed Doroka's help, so he decided to go on his own. Before leaving, Adonis mentioned that he and Doroka were quite different. He couldn't handle the situation as well as she did, as Doroka seemed to find joy even after a tough experience. Doroka, on the other hand, was afraid that the people there would discover she was a witch. She believed the only way to stay safe was to blend in with humans, even if she had to pretend to be happy. But deep down, she wasn't feeling okay. Adonis said he didn't want Doroka to end up like him, so he left her behind. The lizards tried to comfort Doroka when she felt upset about being left alone. Shortly after, Punch came to console Doroka. He criticized Adonis for leaving a beautiful woman like her alone without even saying thank you. Doroka defended Adonis, saying he was actually a good person. Then, Punch surprised Doroka by revealing that Adonis was the witch's apprentice, something she didn't know. It turns out that Adonis and Chloe were the ones who saved Punch when he was in a really bad condition, and he will never forget their kindness. Seeing Adonis and Chloe together, happy and in love, made Punch believe that someone would fight for their happiness no matter what, even if they had to face difficulties. However, Punch understood that revenge was a complicated matter, and Adonis had chosen to seek revenge, even if it meant risking his life. Punch then asked Doroka what she planned to do next. Doroka was starting to find her purpose and realized she couldn't let Adonis die, especially after failing to save Anna. As Adonis continued walking and pondering over Doroka's words, he suddenly saw a figure in the distance. He got ready to use his magic, thinking it might be Rydia's soldiers chasing him. But after a closer look, he realized it was Doroka on a motorcycle. Adonis was surprised, and Doroka almost had an accident. She explained that she wouldn't hold him back anymore and wanted to travel with him. Adonis was happy to hear this, but was even more surprised when he realized Doroka didn't know how to use the brakes on her motorcycle. So he had to chase after her because she seemed a bit lost and didn't know how to stop. On the other side of the story, specifically in the capital of the Rydia Empire, the citizens gathered in anticipation of a ceremony to choose a new king because Emperor Goth had tragically slipped and died. At that time, Oz, who was in charge of anti-terrorist security, kept watch from the rooftop of a building. At exactly 8:57 p.m., the event began by honoring the achievements of the 23rd Emperor, Goth. His leadership had led to remarkable advancements, like the invention of gear expansion, a significant human achievement that improved the world. Thanks to the Empire's strong military, they had restored humanity's pride. After this tribute, a new leader stepped forward to take Goth's place, Queen Dorothea. It's important to note that Dorothea was a witch. She captivated the audience with her singing and dancing, using love magic to make everyone fall under her spell, so they would support her. On the other hand, in a different region, it was clear they weren't as advanced as the Rydia Empire. They used older TVs and smartphones were rare. However, what stood out was that these people weren't affected by Dorothea's magic. They knew Dorothea was a witch who had harmed her own people to gain power in the Rydia Empire. Meanwhile, backstage, the military troops who knew that Adonis was still alive were being eliminated one by one. On the other hand, Shirosagi reappeared, and he couldn't take his eyes off Dorothea, blushing with a nosebleed. However, the most crucial thing was that Shirosagi received a mission to track down Adonis, who was favored by the goddess. But unfortunately for now, Shirosagi was having trouble locating Adonis. Nonetheless, Shirosagi remained confident in his abilities to find him. Soon after, Adonis began his journey with Doroka on a motorcycle. Out of there, he reminded Doroka that he was driven by revenge and didn't want her to be in harm's way. He wondered why Doroka didn't use her love magic on him when they first met, as it could have made it easy for her to control him and make him follow Ophelia's orders. Then, Doroka explained that she didn't want to manipulate people that way. Shortly after, they reached the city of Sandland, which appeared damaged and empty. Adonis remained cautious and asked Doroka to wait while he investigated a large building ahead. However, Doroka didn't want to stay outside alone. Then, out of curiosity about the contents of Daroka's bag, Adonis asked her to show him what Punch had given her. Daroka displayed all the camping gear Punch had provided, including a flexible tent shaped like a snowman, along with lots of other camping equipment. However, Adonis quickly walked away without paying much attention to it. This left Daroka feeling annoyed because she felt ignored. Before entering the building, Adonis wondered why the city was deserted, and there were no signs of any battles. He hoped to find some information inside the building. Upon entering, Daroka let out a surprised shout, which upset Adonis. As they continued exploring, a hologram suddenly appeared and greeted Daroka. She was startled, thinking it was a ghost because she wasn't up to date with the latest technology. Adonis explained that it was just a hologram, a human-made scientific creation. The hologram mentioned that the place used to be a police station to help residents, but unfortunately, there were no longer any people left in the area. After a while, Adonis discovered a prison room and heard someone singing inside. When he checked, he found a prisoner who was still alive. Daroka couldn't help but shout out, which startled the man not just because of her voice but also because he had thought there were no other survivors. The man's name was Ryota. At that time, Ryota seems harmless, but Adonis stays cautious and watches behind him. Adonis already knew why Ryota was staying in this place without being told, so he decided to leave because he had had enough of the place. Before Adonis left, Ryota mentioned that the people who left the city had said the same thing. The residents who were obsessed with gear expansion preferred living in the capital rather than staying there, and this happened after the witch extermination incident. Out of curiosity, Adonis asked if there was a big city nearby. Ryota replied that there was a place called Mamudapolis about 70 kilometers to the east. With this information, Adonis left quickly. Daroka expressed her frustration, wondering why Adonis didn't offer help to Ryota, at least by providing some food and helping him get out of prison. Adonis sighed and explained that the prison wasn't locked. He knew that Ryota lived there with his partner, who had sadly passed away. According to Adonis, what both of them needed wasn't food, but peace and solitude. Ryota deeply loved his girlfriend, Sasha, even though she was no longer alive. The reason they were in prison was that Sasha had been accused of being a witch. Therefore, Ryota found solace in staying there after the people who accused him had left the city, and he intended to be with Sasha until the end of his life. The next day, Adonis has arrived in the city of Mamuda. As they entered, they saw a gate shaped like a bra, which made Daroka worried that Adonis might start a fight with the city's troops. To prevent Adonis from causing trouble, Daroka suggested they play a game of rock, paper, scissors. The loser would have to obey the winner. Adonis didn't want to play at first, but Daroka insisted. When they entered the city, they were both surprised. Adonis was growing frustrated with the current era, which seemed to be so reliant on technology that it was self-destructive. Suddenly, they meet a woman's figure in front of them. Adonis braked abruptly, and Daroka checked to see if the woman was okay, even though she wasn't wearing any clothes. However, it turned out that the woman was a combat robot. Since there was no one around, the robot attacked anyone, including Daroka. Fortunately, Adonis quickly took care of the robot. Then, Adonis warned Daroka to be cautious and explained that the robot was a human-made toy. They heard another noise from a nearby hotel. Concerned for her safety, Adonis asked Daroka to wait outside. He got frustrated and told her to obey, and if anything happened, she should scream because he wouldn't leave her alone. While waiting outside, Daroka got a shock when she saw a bunch of dying robots. She was so scared of being alone that she decided to sneak in and follow Adonis, even though she knew he might get angry. However, Daroka hadn't forgotten her promise to Punch to protect Adonis from harm and keep him from dying. She believed that if Adonis did get angry, he would eventually forgive her after hearing her apology. But when she remembered how fierce and willing Adonis was to leave her alone, Daroka started to panic. Suddenly, he found Daroka hiding, and she immediately knelt down to apologize. She explained that it would be safer for them to stay together than to be separated. Adonis forgave her, but he emphasized that she shouldn't be a hindrance if they encountered any enemies. Soon after, they arrived at a room where they heard loud moaning, and it smelled terrible. When they opened the door, they were surprised to see robots still serving human figures, even though the humans were dead. These robots were created by the Rhedia Empire, as shown by the Rhedia mark. What was strange was that these robots seemed to have personalities and wanted to end their own suffering. They wondered why they were created and programmed this way. Shortly after, Adonis quickly destroyed all of them. Meanwhile, on the other side, there are two women from Suzer's Special Espionage Units 5 and 6. They went across the border, and it's clear they are not from the Redia Empire because they quickly broke in by defeating the Redia guards. Now back to Adonis. According to him, Ophelia's idea is that science will reveal the true nature of humans. When Adonis finds a pair of handcuffs, he becomes convinced that it's all connected to the slave trade. In this small town, they can't afford to buy robots in large numbers, so some men resort to selling their wives and daughters just to get a robot. As a result, this city can't produce the next generation, and it's heading towards destruction because without women, there won't be any new children. Adonis believes that this issue probably isn't limited to just this city. After collecting the robot carcasses, Adonis creates a device resembling an improvised EMP to erase the programs stored in the robots' bodies. On the other hand, we see two women in the city of Mamut. They are targeting Adonis, the magician's apprentice. However, they are not on Redia's side but rather working for the Suzure Empire. Their mission is to capture Adonis to stop Redia's plans. But it won't be easy because Shiroside is also in Mamut City, and he's not willing to give up his prey. He confronts the two women to protect Adonis. Back with Adonis, after they buried the robots, Doroka prayed. Adonis quickly complained that robots don't need condolences from humans. He suggested that if Doroka really wanted to show respect for robots, she should do something like making humans dislike robots. Doroka disagreed with Adonis' idea, and he told her to stay there if she didn't agree. He reminded her that he was responsible for the deaths of the witches on the moon. Then Adonis asked Doroka one last time if she still wanted to go with him. Doroka showed two dolls as a symbol of peace, indicating her desire to follow Adonis everywhere. She was aware that the witches wanted to use Adonis against humanity, which felt like a betrayal. Suddenly, Adonis turned around slightly, whispered an apology, and invited Doroka to join him again. They tried to lighten the mood by joking around. Adonis playfully told Doroka to get rid of the doll that didn't look like him and called her talentless. But then, Doroka proudly mentioned her singing talent. Unfortunately, this lighthearted moment didn't last long because Shiroside arrived. In an instant, Adonis' motorcycle was completely wrecked. It turned out that Adonis had been tracked down by a female intelligence agency led by Charmy. Even though the coordinates had been erased, the server data used was still recorded by Charmy, allowing them to trace Adonis' movements and monitor Shiroside through a drone. There, Charmy instructed Shiroside to eliminate Adonis quickly because she didn't want to work overtime. Adonis began to panic as he realized that science was powerful enough to locate him. When he asked Shiroside about the two women, he showed their heads, indicating that he had swiftly taken care of them. This angered Doroka when she saw it. Suddenly, Shiroside appeared right in front of Doroka. Shortly after, Adonis tried to grab Doroka, but before he could cast any magic, Shiroside struck Adonis and sent him flying. Adonis then began shooting, but Shiroside effortlessly dodged all the bullets. After that, he created a larger bullet, and Charmy, who to Shiroside would try to restrain him, suggested that they should evade him. When Shiroside was about to attack, Doroka quickly used her love magic. Adonis instructed Doroka to gather information from Shiroside, but Shiroside easily broke free and seemed delighted to meet someone with the same magic as Dorothea. Shiroside revealed that he had love magic implanted in his chest by Dorothea, rendering Doroka's magic ineffective against him. Adonis was confused because he didn't know who Dorothea was. Suddenly, Shiroside launched hundreds of mechanical arms to attack Adonis. At that time, Adonis told Doroka to step back since her magic wasn't working anymore. Remembering an insult from Guth, who considered witches useless without magic, and seeing Doroka's determination to be useful, Adonis created an armor and sword for her. This would allow Doroka to join the fight or at least defend herself. Adonis explained that the sword was enchanted to cut through anything, and even showed her a scroll with swordsmanship techniques. For Adonis, this was relatively easy, and fortunately, Doroka had some skill with the sword. However, both of them were getting very tired, especially Doroka, as Shirosai's machine hands seemed endless. Once again, Adonis had to protect Doroka. Suddenly, Shirosai increased his attack power by boosting his output. Adonis used magic to destroy all the machine hands and then formed a ball that rolled toward Shirosai. There, Charmy warned Shirosai not to touch the ball, but this time, Shirosai didn't listen and maxed out his output. Surprisingly, Shirosai managed to hold the ball. Adonis rushed to strike him, but Shirosai stopped him with a machine hand. In that moment, Adonis focused on Doroka, who had injured Shirosai's leg out of fear, putting her in danger. Then he approached to protect her. Shurasati told Daroka to aim accurately at his heart, warning that failure would lead to their deaths. Adonis got up again and tried to bind Shurasati with magic. Slowly, Shurasati's body began to crumble. However, Shurasati survived by disrupting Adonis's magic with his own, causing Adonis's magic to weaken. Their only hope was Daroka, but she seemed helpless, being grabbed and lifted into the air. Adonis can't move, and his magic slipped from his hand, releasing him. He started to panic, realizing he had no hope of survival. He felt a deep sense of sadness and anger for the second time as the person closest to him was killed before his eyes. However, this time, Daroka was still alive. Sadly, Daroka will be in pain for the rest of her life because she can't see anymore. Adonis got mad and asked Shurasati to give back Daroka's eyes, but Shurasati made Adonis even angrier by playing with the eyes. Adonis got really mad and tried to attack Shurasati, but couldn't hurt him. Soon after, Adonis hid and helped Daroka stop the bleeding. Adonis used Shurasati's robotic arm to treat Daroka's injuries. Daroka apologized to Adonis for being a burden and said she always wanted to go to school with him and live in peace. She wondered why her life was like this and then fainted. Out of the blue, Adonis remembered that Chloe and Daroka had the same dream. This made Adonis feel really sorry because he hadn't been able to protect either of them. So he decided to use all his powers to create a giant. Shurasati, on the other hand, was excited to see magic that didn't make sense. Adonis tried to attack him, but Shurasati was safe. Adonis then threatened to make Queen Dorothea go through what Daroka had experienced. This made Shurasati really mad, and he wanted to end this quickly. Surprisingly, the strong giant was easily defeated by Shurasati. Adonis was stuck and couldn't do anything. This time, Shurasati gathered all his hands into one giant hand. On the other side, Daroka, who couldn't see, kept calling out for Adonis. Soon after, Adonis came over, but it turned out to be Shurasati pretending to be him. Daroka asked where Adonis was, not knowing that he was being carried helplessly. Adonis told Daroka to run, but Shurasati immediately attacked Adonis until he died. Meanwhile, Daroka was also killed. Shurasati was annoyed because Daroka's voice reminded him of Dorothea. Fortunately, he had changed Daroka's appearance. Suddenly, Shurasati remembered when he first met Dorothea, the one he loved. But he couldn't be with her after knowing her goals. Still, he was happy to be devoted to her. He believed the world didn't need two powerful witches, and Adonis was already a worthy opponent. At that time, Shurasati was about to kill Adonis when Daroka stopped him and reminded him that witches were considered enemies of mankind. Daroka knew Adonis had destroyed the capital and caused human deaths, but it started because humans were hunting witches. She believed revenge was wrong, but was convinced that humans couldn't be forgiven, and revenge wasn't necessarily wrong. Shurasati said he didn't care about what Daroka was saying. He was focused on getting Adonis' head. Adonis, who was dying, asked Daroka for one favor, to use a love spell on him. Adonis was willing to do anything for Daroka, and begged for it until she agreed. Surprisingly, the love spell worked. It not only boosted Adonis' physical abilities but also transferred Daroka's memories to him. Adonis saw Daroka's past memories, where she was at a magic school with other witches. Daroka's friends often made fun of her abilities. Her magic was considered useless and dangerous for people. Her magic was all about control, and her friends found it repulsive. Because of this, Daroka was always isolated and determined to become a good witch, promising never to use her magic on anyone. This is where Adonis starts to understand why Daroka is always so trusting and innocent. Adonis asked Daroka to use him however she wanted without worrying about anything. At that time, Daroka gained confidence and created a crown that healed Adonis completely. He had magic beyond human understanding. Daroka encouraged Adonis to become an unbeatable person, making him even stronger. Meanwhile, Shurasati felt helpless and asked Adonis to calm down and not end everything. But Adonis was too angry to listen. He started casting the most powerful magic spell in the world. Then, Adonis explained that this magic was clothes, used to end a drought on Earth 100 years ago. He promised to use it to protect others. At that time, Shurasati tried to fight back, but his machine hands froze and broke instantly. He told Daroka to stop Adonis' magic, because a human like him couldn't handle such cold. But Daroka reassured him, saying that Adonis, filled with revenge, would release a burning fire inside his body. Shurasati was really surprised. It turns out that suggestion can make things happen that don't make sense to humans. He tried to attack, but froze instantly. When the spell was over, it created a massive snowstorm, covering several cities on Earth. At the same time, Punch and his friends were amazed to see the hot desert turn into a snowy one, making everyone cold. As for Adonis, when he passed out from the cold, he saw an image of Chloe hugging him and then disappearing. When he woke up, he remembered his promise to Chloe, to use his magic only to protect people. So he created a strong and warm armor to protect Doroka. Shortly after, Adonis fainted again from the cold, which worried Doroka. But when she heard his heartbeat, she felt relieved because he was still alive. Dying Sugar Sadie said that Adonis and Doroka looked like Dorothea when they were young. He asked Doroka to tell Dorothea that even though he failed in his mission, he had done his best. Soon, Adonis realized something important. He remembered he had promised to heal Doroka's eyes. Meanwhile, Queen Dorothea was shown, jogging happily in the morning and greeting her people. When she returned to the palace, her advisors were worried about her safety, but she assured them that she and the people loved each other. She also asked if they had heard back from the crowns, and if not, she'd declare war. Next, the story showed Mother Orion Senno's country, Micah's military nation, Mark Point's medical country, and the eastern country of Suzhou. Back to Adonis, he was now awake and healthy. Doroka still felt bad about using the love spell on him, but she was starting to understand. Adonis revealed that he had strong feelings of love and affection for Chloe and told Doroka not to worry about the love spell because he had asked for it. Then, Adonis asked Doroka if he could lift her bangs, and she agreed. At that time, Doroka felt embarrassed because she thought her face looked ugly now. Adonis told her that he was also responsible for this situation. After seeing Doroka's memories, he began to understand her better. He realized that Doroka's kindness was genuine and not fake. Adonis asked Doroka to share her kindness with him. When Adonis tied a cloth around Doroka's eyes, she imagined him hugging her tightly. There he made it clear that his heart belonged to Chloe, and Doroka's love magic wouldn't affect him. Despite her mischievous words, Doroka was content. When Adonis held her hand tightly, Doroka was deeply moved. Adonis said they needed to help each other. The anime ends. The moral lesson from this anime is don't mess with witches' feuds, or you could end up blind as a bat and twice as sad. Be nice, live life, and avoid the drama.